Good morning to all the good peeps out there, or good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Somebody had to go at me last week for saying good morning when it was their evening, and I understand that there's all different parts of the world where it is a different time of the day. So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it might be, wherever you are from. Jump into the chat box, let me know that you are there, as I just make sure things are working properly here. Which is always important on a live stream, as we had a little bit of a technical challenge the other night. I did a live chat hangout for the VIPs and the Patreon VIPs, and we had some challenges, to say the least, but that's okay. These things happen. G'day Tommy from Hong Kong. Sam Allen, good morning. Good to see you there. Alrighty, things are happening, which is good. Just going to Millsy, good morning from Camden. Bet it's cold out there this morning. Mark from Vancouver, good morning. Great to see you here. Vancouver Island. Okay, beautiful. Hopefully everything's working well this morning, as we did have a little bit of a technical issue. Just put that camera up just a tad, so you're not losing the top of my head. So what's the weather like where you're at? We're pretty cold here this morning in good old Sydney. But, winter is definitely not done with us yet, unfortunately. Winter is definitely not done with us. Alrighty. What am I going to do here? Pop this chat out, so I've got the chat. Alrighty. Just got things nicely set up. Well, some exciting news this week in photography, wasn't there? I mean, you look at some of the things that are going on. Boy, oh boy, the new Nikon D850. That's a powerhouse of a machine, that is. But boy, oh boy, they when I say a powerhouse, they certainly want some cash for that, don't they? It looks like pricing in Australia is going to be just over $5,000. I've heard it's going to be just over $4,000. But everywhere I've looked, George's Cameras, camerawarehouse.com.au, whatever it is, they're wanting 5,200 or 5,300, looking for sort of a 10% deposit at the moment. So we'll talk about that shortly. All right, sunny and 29 degrees in Hong Kong. Hopefully all that typhoon weather is gone, my friend. Tassie. Going to be a snowy weekend in Tasmania. Well, that's not always a bad thing, is it? Puts a bit of snow on top of the mountains for photographers. Get out there and take some photos. Yeah, 5 degrees. Would have been colder than that this morning when I got up this morning. I think it was about 2 degrees here, or 3 degrees. So can be quite cold. Alrighty, let's get stuck into getting things happening. All right. So what are we up to today? So just a quick reminder, by the way, if you're not already, shoot across to facebook.com/on3legs and follow me there. Or you can find me on Instagram, just on3legs. And of course, you found me here on YouTube and you probably already subscribed. The other thing that you can do is head across to my website, which is on3legs.com. I'm really slack at updating that, but there is a free ebook there, which is called the 10 Tips to Better Photos. So you can go over there and grab that if you want. If you haven't already got it, grab it. It takes you through 10 different techniques I use to take better photos. I wrote it about 5 years ago. Probably time for me to write a new one. But everything in there is still very relevant. I made sure what I wrote was, would last long term. All right, so let's get stuck into it. First of all, I want to say thank you also to the Patreons. Now, if you're not a Patreon already, you can become a Patreon. What does it mean? If you're not sure what that means, head to Patreon, which is patreon.com/on3legs, and you will end up at a site that looks something like this. And you can then choose at what level you'd like to support the channel at. It starts from $2 a month. Every level gets instant access to a closed group. I can't show you the group because I've got something there I'm going to show you. That's okay. You know what a closed group looks like. But every single person gets access to a closed VIP group where we chat all things photography. And you can have your work critiqued in there, so you can stick your photos in there. There's a lot of that going on. Or you can, just ask about gear, advice, locations, chat with me directly in there. We're having a good old time. Very active group, in fact, which is good. As photographers, we like to post our stuff up and chat about it all the time, which is good. So patreon.com/on3legs if you want to join the community, and then depending on what level you join at as to what you get, but you can have a read on the website. It explains exactly what it does. I'm really, really grateful and stoked that those of you that are supporting the channel are doing so. It means the world to me, and it's going to help me develop this channel further in the future. Alrighty, now I did want to quickly show you a video that I found. I don't know if you've seen this. This is the wingtip of an aeroplane that has been knocked off by a drone, apparently. Now, I don't know if this is real or not, this video, but I'll just take it back, scrub back to a point where, there we go, that's where the drone takes it off, and press play so you can see what happens here. What's this? Now, the very fact that they move their camera to the right makes me think it might be a bit fake. I don't know, but it looks real. It does look very real. So I'll play it again for you. You tell me what you think. Do you think that's real, or do you think that's fake? But that's the danger of drones, isn't it? I mean, it does look real. Every time I do it, I go, that looks real. But you see how we go behind the window there. Sometimes I question that type of thing because, it's easy to fake stuff. And I have seen fake stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen the airplane that loses a wing in flight and still lands. Very fake. No plane can fly with just one wing, unfortunately. So what do you think? Do you think that's real? Do you think it's fake? What do you think? Just jumping into the chat box now. What do you think? Real or fake? What's the vote? Hey, Reuven, good morning. Tim, good evening. Brian, g'day, Brian. Jeff, g'day, Jeff. Oh, another typhoon coming this weekend, Tommy. That's no good, buddy. Yeah. So what do you think? Was that, I don't know, was that fake or was it real? In the comments, they're saying it's fake. You would think an airplane wing would be stronger than that. I would agree. Clickbait, Paul says. Yeah, interesting. Interesting, isn't it? The stuff that you can find on the internet. Yeah, Tommy thinks it's fake as well. Yeah. Fake. Everyone's saying fake. All right, we'll go with fake then. We're going to say it's fake. It's not a real video. Alrighty. Fantastic. All right. So I wanted to... last week I announced that I was going to do a tour in Tasmania with wildlife photographer Michael Sneddick. Now, if you haven't seen Michael Sneddick or heard of him, he writes for Australian Photography, I think pretty much every issue. He's a well-known wildlife photographer in Australia, and he does these photography tours. And I've known him for about, I don't know, I think it's 5 or 6 years now. And I actually met him on a tour, about 5 years, because on my 40th birthday, I decided that rather than doing anything locally, that I'd go on a photography tour workshop. And I went to Tasmania and I met him, and that's where I shot that shot of the aurora that some of you have seen, along with all my Cradle Mountain shots, and where it was my very first trip to Tassie. And we got talking. I met up for him for coffee in Brisbane when I was up there a few months ago, and we got talking, and I said, it'd be great if I could put a tour on for the people that are connected with me on YouTube, Facebook, etc. So we put the Tassie tour together, the Cradle Mountain tour, and thinking that I would have time to sort of let everybody know about it, and he put it out to his database as well. And we can only take 10 people. There's only 2 of us, and we wanted to make sure we limited it to 10 people. So one tutor per 5 people, or one guide per 5 people, whatever you want to call us. And it sold out in record time. He's never had a workshop sell out so quickly. What was a shame for me was there was only one of my followers got onto the tour. The other 9 are from his database. So Brian, who's in the chat box here, is the one that jumped on and got his spot for the tour. So we're going May 18th, I think it is from memory, for 5 days in Tasmania. and Brian is coming along to hang out with me for a week. So Brian, it'll be cool to hang out. Now, what happened as a result was I actually, during the week I spoke to Michael about this. I said, Michael, is there any way we can do another one? Because I only got one person that was able to get in. I have a couple of other people that were asking me questions. And I think it's because his followers are used to the fact that he'll offer a tour and it will sell out. So they jump in quickly if it's a good one. And Cradle Mountain's really popular. Anywhere in Tassie's really popular, right? So he knows they fill up pretty quickly, but he didn't expect that. And I think what he did was he actually told his followers that I was also going to promote his event, so they better get in fast. So they really took that literally and booked their tickets. But Brian's coming along, so that'll be great. I'll also, of course, do a bit of vlogging from the workshop. When I can, in between helping people take better photos. Mostly during that trip, the idea is that I've got to help all the participants take better photos. But I will be doing a little bit of vlogging, and I might vlog as I help Brian with composition or something like that. We'll put something fun together. But when I spoke to Michael, I said to Michael, is there any chance of doing another one? So he's working on that at the moment. He's going to come back to me with some dates, and he's going to see if there's a way that I can partner up with him on another one. It'll be a bit of fun. And if you missed out, it'll give you another opportunity to come on another Tassie tour. We probably won't do Cradle Mountain twice in a row. We'll probably do the East Coast somewhere. And we haven't decided yet, but where I took that Aurora photo is an amazing area of Tasmania. So might do another one there. We'll see. I'm not sure, but if you are interested, just let me know. Can you just shoot me a message and let me know that you're keen. The good thing about them is they're priced really well, and all you have to do is leave a deposit now, and you've got months to save for the rest, so you can pay it off. Michael doesn't care how you do it. He's a really easygoing guy. I'm sure Brian will vouch for that. He's a nice guy, lovely guy, and so he'll work in with you. So whatever you need to do, we'll make it happen. All right, but yeah, unfortunately it sold out so quickly. The other thing that was exciting that happened this week, West Coast? No, East Coast is what we're going to do. East Coast, Sam, yeah, East Coast of Tassie. Is that where East Coast, Freycinet, where the Wineglass Bay is and the Hazard Mountains? That's East Coast, I think. Yeah, that's East Coast. That's where we're going to be going. We're not going to be doing the West Coast this trip. We're going to be doing the East Coast is what we're talking about. We haven't locked anything in, but I was thinking about whether we do that area, or I mentioned tessellated pavement to him, so I don't know. It's not my tour company. I'm just going along for the ride. And full disclosure, I'm not getting paid for it. I'm just don't have to pay to be there. So, I'm doing it as a friend to him, but because I wanted to go back to Tassie, and I also wanted to have the opportunity for other people to come along without me having to look after everything. So, that's why I'm doing it. But Michael basically, he looks after all the accommodation, all the food, all the transport, everything you can possibly imagine is looked after for you. So it makes it really easy. All right. Yes, as Brian says, he's a top bloke for sure. He's a fun bloke to be around for a week too, but bloody good photographer when it comes to wildlife. So I don't shoot wildlife, I shoot landscapes, but he does the wildlife side. So, he'll do a bit of tuition on that as well if you're interested in learning a bit about making sure you get the best shots. All right, let's quickly jump into this exciting news. And I'll just make sure you can hear me still. Yeah. There we go. All right. So I don't know if you can see how much of that you can see. It's got pretty small writing. But pretty impressive bit of kit. The new D850. Anybody excited by this? New Nikon D850? Anybody selling their kidneys off, maybe? So I'm pretty excited by it. What I'm not excited by is the price. Because now it's... there's going to be people that will jump over to the D850 because it's the new thing. And if you have a look at the specs for this thing, it is a very spec-rich camera. It's a catch-all, right? So in the past, I think people have. Let me jump over to this one here. Might be able to read some of the things better for you. In the past, people have had to have many different cameras to fulfill different roles. And what Nikon have done here, and this is what I don't think people realise yet, or some do, but what they've done here is they've made a camera that does everything really well. You can shoot sport with this, you can shoot high quality portraiture and professional imagery. You could do amazing video, time lapse, and it is the do it all camera. And even Canon fans are saying Nikon has just kicked Canon up the butt with this camera. The 5D Mark IV doesn't have anything on this, and so it's an interesting time because Nikon was I saw some reports for Nikon that they were struggling a little bit financially. But this new camera is just going to set the world on fire. Now Brian's asked me how much for my D810. Well, the D850 is not confirmed to be going into my stables just yet. There's a chance that I will because it's good to have. I mean, it's just going to be an amazing camera. But I was also thinking about the Fuji GFX, the medium format, and this is a way to start thinking about this. If I was to sell my Nikon gear, along with all the lenses that I don't use, I'd be able to buy GFX and have change, because I've got a lot of gear that I don't use anymore, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I do that and go to the medium format. And I don't know if you've seen Timothy Poulton. Timothy Poulton's an Aussie guy who runs, I think he also runs a photography workshop business, but OAK, I can't remember the name of his Facebook page. It's a shame. It'll come back to me. Somebody else might know him anyway. Just say it in the chat box because we should give him full credit. But his name's Timothy Poulton, and he does amazing panoramic images. Goes to Patagonia and New Zealand, to the South Island, and he was shooting with a Nikon with a tilt shift lens doing his panos, or a tilt flip lens from Schneider, and then he's gone across now to the Fuji GFX. And I was asking him, one of a kind. There you go, OAK. I knew it was something like that. One of a kind. It came back to me. But he's shooting now with the GFX, and I asked him about it and said, what's the difference for him? And he said it's night and day. So as a landscape shooter, because I don't shoot sport, I don't have any desire to shoot sport, I don't need 9 frames per second. What I want the detail and the resolution and the dynamic range. So I'm sure I would get that with the D850, but I'd also get that with the GFX. So I've got to think about which way I'm going to go. But this camera has some pretty impressive specs. And you can go and read up for this for yourself, but a 46 megapixel. Now it's got what's called a backside illuminated sensor, which is sort of a first. And I think that's one of the game changers, is that what that means is it's got a light behind the sensor, which actually makes it work better. So this is the dpreview.com site. You can go and check it out. But actually talks about everything, all the different aspects of this camera and why it's amazing. It's an amazing camera. They've really stepped up their game. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, which is good. Bluetooth means that you'll be able to do things with your phone pretty quickly. What's disappointing is, once again, no GPS. But being Bluetooth, I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to get an app on your phone that will transfer the GPS information pretty quickly. So I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. Everyone's going to a big deal because GPS is just another battery sucker. All right, P&S Kingsford. Good to be able to watch live. Camera question. I'm looking. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second then. Great, he's got a question. P&S Kingsford. In fact, I'll do that now. Let's answer that question. Good to be able to watch live. I'm looking at upgrading to full frame from my Canon 550D. I have a couple of lenses, but I hear Nikon has a better dynamic range for landscape. Well, that's a tough question to answer. Depends where you're thinking about heading to. I had a 5D Mark III once, as well as my Nikon, and that that just was an amazing camera. It may not have had this. Well, it's hard to say. Did it have the same dynamic range? I don't know. It was a great camera. So I don't think I'm not brand loyal in any way. I just happen to shoot Nikon. And I think when you go from crop sensor to full frame sensor, you're just going to see a marked improvement anyway. So I say jump in and just go and find something. If you've already got Canon L lenses, then it's going to be hard for you to move away. If you don't have the L lenses, then when you go to full frame, you're going to like a premium of either Nikon or Canon anyway. So sell up what you've got in cropped and go in DX or whatever, I don't know what Canon call it, and jump up to the full frame sort of kit. By now, and this is the thing, when a photographer goes from crop sensor to full frame, you should have a good feel for what you like to shoot. So you know, it's nice to have a 70 to 200, but if you don't shoot with your zoom lens very often, then don't worry about it. Just go and get, if you're a landscape shooter, just go and get yourself a nice wide angle lens. You know, to get yourself a good full frame body, nice wide angle lens. Spend your money then on filters and tripod, and making sure you're comfortable when you're out and about. So hiking boots and nice backpack and, you know, water bladder, whatever it is you need. Think about all the things that are going to make you more comfortable as you go out and you shoot landscape, and just do that. And don't worry about having all the gear. I've got a stack of lenses that I never use. So you've got to really think about, you know, what's important to you. There's my answer for that. Hopefully that helps. James T Photography, looks like we'll be ripped off with the Aussie price. I agree, mate. I saw it on, I think, in the US, $3,300, and in Australia, $5,300. Now, I don't know about you, but if I just go, let's go to conversion, currency conversion. Let's do this, currency exchange conversion. Let's go and see what that works out to be. I'm going to put in here US dollars at the top to Australian dollar. Okay, let's put in 3,300. Yeah, so just 4,200. So it looks like we're paying $1,000 premium, doesn't it? I'm not too happy with that. I'll have to agree with you. Not too happy with that at all. But that's what they call the Australia tax, and you can thank the government for a lot of that, because what the government has just done is they've changed. They went to these big corporations like Adobe, and you know, I noticed Skype's doing it. All these companies are doing it, and they went to these organisations and said, "You're getting out of paying all the taxes, so we're going to change the laws." And all they did was make it so now they had to put their prices up by the GST and charge us GST. Now that's fair for local companies, I get that, but they didn't really penalise the companies that are selling into Australia. What they did was they made the consumer pay more. Interesting. PNS Kingsford, my name is Phil. G'day, Phil. Good stuff. And Tommy said the D850 will be around $1,000 cheaper at Hong Kong. Yes, good to know somebody in Hong Kong. Hey, Tommy. Might have to get a D850 buying service going on. $4,300 in Canada. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting. All right, let's move on. But because I know we could talk about the D850 for a long time, and I'm not going to do that. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. But yeah, just exciting to see it finally released, and because the D810 was released back in, I think, 2012 from memory. So it's been a long time coming. No, maybe, was it 2012? 2014. 2014, I think it was. So 3 years ago. So it's good to see. I think the D810 was 2012. Alrighty, Patreon of the week. Now, if you are a Patreon, you would know that when you become an elite VIP, you get a little bit of a plug where I show people and share people your social media, which is a cool thing I get to do, actually. So this week, I am giving Jeff a shout out, who is in the chat box. So Jeff Clark, say g'day, you're in the chat box. So Jeff is our Patreon of the week, and I am going to share a couple of his, his main social media that I think you should go and follow is his 500 pics. So go to 500px.com/Jeff Clark 1. And Jeff might type that in the box for everybody if he wants. But Jeff has got some amazing stuff, some great photos. So if you want to go and see his work, as you can see as I scroll through, some really nice photography. And 500 Pics does such a good job of, keeps the photos intact. I love the way 500 Pics does it. It's where Facebook, degrades images. But some really nice photos, Jeff. Some really nice photos. So people can sort of go along and follow you there. Come check out your 500 Pics. Check it out. Look at these photos. I love waterfalls. I'm a sucker for waterfalls. There's Blue Mountains home. So lots of Sydney in here that I recognise. The Blue Mountains one there. Couple of Blue Mountains. Beautiful. Oh, look at that one of the Blue Mountains with the clouds sitting inside behind the Three Sisters. Nice. So Jeff Clark, thank you very much, my friend, for being a VIP elite. As you can see, people, amazing photos. Head across to his 500 Pics and follow him. It's 500px.com/Jeff Jeff Clark 1, and that's with a G, so it's GEOFF Clark, CLARK 1. Jeff Clark. Oh, someone's been to Sculptures by the Sea a few years ago. I went to that one. I remember taking photos of those. That's a little beach down in the eastern suburbs. Beautiful photos, mate. You know what's cool when you look through these photos, because it's chronological, is as you go through them, you can see how you've got better and better and better. and you know, people want to know how to take better photos. Just take lots of them. Just keep going out there and take more and more photos. But yeah, well done, Jeff. So there you go. That's our Patreon of the week. Make sure you give him a big shout out in the chat box there, and you follow him. All right, now where are we? What are we up to? Okay. So some cool stuff going on in today's show. Lots of cool stuff. Now, some questions I got asked that I want to quickly answer and tackle. One, after I promoted the Tassie thing, I got asked, do I do local workshops? And the answer is no, I don't. I every now and then I do something, but it's not something I do as a regular thing. A few years ago I did some Vivid workshops because people were struggling with taking photos at the Vivid Lights sort of festival in Sydney, and I'm thinking about doing that again in 2018 if I'm around. But it's around the same time that I'm going to be going to Tassie, so I'm not sure whether I'll get there or not. But if I am around, I might do some of those. If there's enough interest, because I'm Sydney based, and I suppose I could go to some other places if there was enough interest. If there was enough interest, I would run maybe a sunrise workshop in Sydney or a sunset workshop, but I'd need to know there was enough interest, and that would probably be what I'd do. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Just shoot me an email or hit me up with a message through the Facebook group. The other thing I've been asked, do I do any one-on-one? Once again, no, I don't. But if you really wanted me to do some one-on-one tuition with you and come out and do a shoot, then contact me and I'll see what I can do. But it's not something I do. This is not my main gig. I do have another business that I run full time, which I know if you're friends with me on Facebook, you'll see I own another company that does business training and teaches people how to grow their business. So that's what I do full time. But if you want to, get some training from me, if that's something, then I'm happy to have a look at doing it, because I did in the past. Funny, in the past week, I've had about 5 or 6 people ask me, do I run workshops locally? And I don't, but I could. So if there was enough people interested, then let's do it. The other thing is, I just want to remind everybody, if you're not already a Patreon, we've got the webinar level. So I've got a webinar on this Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. where I'm going to be taking people through my 7 secrets of composition. So if you are a Patreon, you can upgrade to the Webinar Junkie level if you want to come in for the webinar. If you're already at that level, then just a reminder that it is on 7:30 p.m. this Wednesday, and I have put the link up inside the Patreon page in a post that only you can view. So make sure you go and you see that link. I tried to use YouTube Live the other day for the VIP hangout that we did, my very first VIP hangout, and I had all sorts of problems. The first problem I had was it tried to start pixel chatter when I was just trying to do an off-the-cuff live, and then the second problem I had was because I was showing people how I process an image, it was really clunky. So I quickly then jumped into another software program that I know works for meetings online called Zoom, and I set up an account and just decided to pay the monthly amount to use that for our webinar, so it was more reliable. So that's what we'll be using. So you need to jump into that Patreon page and click on the link, and at 7:30 next Wednesday, and jump into that webinar. If you miss it, I will try and record it. Being the first one, I'm not sure what's going to happen. But my goal is to record them all and make sure they sit inside the Patreon site for all of those of you that are at Webinar Junkie or high level, so you can access those pre-recorded webinars as well. So the 7 secrets of composition, that's what it's going to be this week. Let's just go into the chat box before we start doing the critiques. I have got 3 images to critique this week. I've got one from Ren Thielen, who I know is in the chat box somewhere. I'm pretty sure I saw Ren in here. Yes, I did. Good stuff. So, Ren, we've got one of yours. We've got John Gall again. John Gruhl, I think it is. Don't know if John's in the chat box today, but John, we've got one of his images, and Chris Lewis, who I'm not sure if we've got him here or not today. Haven't seen him, I don't think. No, I think Chris did say, he sent me a message saying he wasn't going to be on for Pixel Chatter today, that he had to go to work and he would be listening in the car, I believe. So I think he is around, but just not in the chat box. Alrighty, who we got here? Let's have a look. I'll just check the chat box out. Alrighty, yeah, beautiful images. Yes, there was for Jeff, wasn't there? You're welcome, Jeff. Chance, g'day. Late, but you're here, you made it. Good stuff. Dave's Tattoo from King Comer. G'day, Dave. How are you, mate? Good to have you in here, Dave. And Ren's here. Joe, g'day, Joe. How you doing, Joe? All right, fantastic. So, let's start looking at these images. Get this set up in my Lightroom. Let's do this. All right. So, the 3 images I have today, let me just make it so we can see them all a bit better. Come on, computer. There we go. That's as large as they'll go. All right, too easy. So the 3 images that I've got today, we've got one here from Ren. And so what I'll do is I'll just put them back out so I can read about it. They're not going to go any bigger at this point. We'll have a look in a second. This one's from Ren. No idea where it's from, but we'll get to that very shortly. An old tree stump somewhere. Looks like there's been a storm or something, wherever that is. This one here is from John Grawl in the middle. And then on the right, we have one from Chris Lewis Prince that was actually taken with an iPhone. So, my hat's off to him for just using his iPhone to snap a photo. And we'll talk about why some of this works really well and what he could do better. So we've got these 3 images that we're going to run through. So we'll start with Ren's. Let's jump into Ren's image. G'day, Justin. Alrighty. Okay. So first things first, let's look at settings and talk about things technically, and then we'll jump in and have a look at composition and other things we could have done better, bit of the post-processing side. So technically, shot at ISO 100. Now this was shot with a Nikon D7200 and the 18 to 35 millimeter lens. So good quality lens and camera. It was shot at f8. 1/80th of a second at 28 millimeters ISO 100. So going to ISO 100, good choice. Yeah, always go as low as you can. F8, good. That's okay. Probably could have gone a little bit higher, but that doesn't look like it's affected the image too much from a sharpness. Just remember when you've got something in front of you that's close, like this tree stump, and then you've got things like this that are far away. Or this rock or the trees, you want to go to a higher F number to make sure you have a depth of field that's deeper. Now, the depth of field is the distance that's in focus within your image. And it's always important. With a crop sensor, you're going to get away with it more than with a full frame sensor. So depending on the type of camera you've got as to what's going to happen. So just keep that in mind when you're shooting things. When you are shooting things that are so close to you like this, you want everything to be in focus. If you look closely down here, all of these rocks in the foreground aren't in focus. And I would say that even this stump looks like it's not as sharp as this is here, over here. This bit over here, and I think that's because I'm not sure where the focus point was set, but I would say it's set maybe on this rock in the background that actually looks a bit like a bird. I don't know if you can see that. To me, that looks a bit like a bird. That was kind of cool. I would call that bird rock. Yeah, I'd go back and just shoot that rock. Kind of cool. Anyway, getting off the topic there. So, always think about that technically when you're shooting. The other thing that I will do, if I just jump into the develop module quickly, and we have a look at the blown highlights, you can see that this is probably a little bit on the bright side from an exposure point of view. And I want to remind you that you have a feature in your camera that is called exposure compensation. And this allows you to compensate for the fact that you're going to have times where you're going to have a mix of darks and lights in an image, and your metering in your camera is going to get confused. Now, you should have evaluative metering on. That's the best you can use for landscape photography, and that's the one that takes light from all 4 quarters of your screen and from the center, and and evaluates an average, but it doesn't always get it right. So you've got to make sure you monitor things like your highlights. So here, if you were looking at your histogram after you took the shot, you'll see that a percentage of your pixels are bunched up to the right, and what's happening as a result of that is that sky is getting washed out and you're losing the detail. So what you could do, you've got a bit of room on the left here. See here, there's a lot of room on the left. You could wind that exposure down one third of a stop, 2/3 of a stop, or a full stop even, and probably could have got away with it. And because these red areas, although it's not a huge amount, but these red spots are pixels that are now blown out that are not going to be able to be recovered. Now, if that was a waterfall that was on, you just wouldn't be able to get the detail back in the water. Being the sky and it's only a few small spots, it's not a deal breaker, but just something for you to think about. I think that's really important. Right, so technically, they're the things I probably would have changed. I would have probably gone to a higher F number, and I would have used the exposure compensation to bring that down. And that would have just technically made it a bit better. Now, from a composition point of view, you depending, I don't know, once again, I wasn't there. You've definitely framed it in a way where you've put the stump, which I think is the main feature, on one of the crosshairs of the rule of thirds, which is good. So you can see it's on that line. You didn't put it in the middle. I don't know what time of day it was either. Does it tell me the time of day in the EXIF information? I think it does, actually. Let's have a look. So it looks like, okay, 10:45 in the morning. So, yeah, so the light is not at its best. So, from a technical point of view, once again, try and shoot at a time where the light's going to really be in your favour. I don't know where this was either, but 10:45, it's likely that light's not at its best, and that's not going to help you at all either. So you want to make sure that you keep these things in mind as you shoot. Looks like it was very filtered though because of the sky. And from a composition point of view, it actually, for me, it doesn't work. And I think it's just, there's no real focus. I know the stump's supposed to be the focal point, but there's a lot going on in this image. You've got the stump here. There's a stump over here poking out of the water. Then you've got this here that's cut off. Then you've got this rock that looks like a bird. And then, you've got the trees coming in the top right-hand corner, and then a lot of white space on the right where there's nothing. So I think from a composition point of view, there could have been an opportunity to really feature this stump and move to the left, maybe somewhere over near this stump here, and frame this stump up in the left of your shot and have all the water to the right. Now, I don't know what was here. Maybe there was a sewage plant here. We don't know. That's the thing. I've got no idea what was there. Because, things like this are great foreground interest. This stump is good interest, but it's really about working out the best possible angle. Now, I can also see that you've shot really low. So you've got your camera down low, which can work well. And here it does isolate the stump from the background. So that's good. But once again, not knowing what the rest of the location looks like, it's another thing that you've got to be careful of, because you probably frame the stump a little too high in the picture by doing that, as where if you had sort of recomposed slightly so the stump was a bit lower. Let me just change it up just a little bit so it's not too crazy. And really made this stump a feature. Maybe let's leave that in there like that. So, if you want that to be the feature, and then you can really get the detail to pop out of that. I always think one of the biggest challenges for anybody in photography is composition. The technical stuff's important, but if you don't get the composition right, you can have a technically beautifully taken photo, but if the composition's slightly off, it can really detract from the image. So I always suggest, in this particular circumstance where you're not relying on waiting for the right light, and you don't have that small window where you've got to take the photo because that's when the light's going to be there, use your time to really experiment with composition. Go high, go low, get close, go left, go right, And then when you get back to your computer, put your 30, 40 different compositions on the screen and just see which one worked best. And you'll start to learn, what works really well, because it's one of the keys. For me, I'd say it's one of the keys to great photography is composition. It's all about composition. And when people see your image, processing is important and getting the white balance right and the all of those things right. But composition is just so important for photography. So I would have done that. Now with a post-processing side, this image, as I said before, is very bright in the highlights. So drop your highlights down straight away. You can see the detail has come out in the sky. It depends how much you want to bring the shadows up, but I bring them up a bit to bring some of the detail back. Let's set the whites and the blacks, get a bit of contrast happening. And it's just slightly overexposed, so I'm going to bring the exposure down. The shadows up a bit now, I've brought the exposure down. I'm going to change the white balance slightly. I think it's too warm. It's not natural. There we go. And then let's do a little bit of tweaking with clarity and vibrance, just a little bit, because I like to do those locally. And straight away you can see the difference just in a few adjustments there. Let me show you the before. So that's the before and that's the after. Okay, before and after. Yeah, because this tree trunk is the feature, let's just crop it a bit. Let's crop this in. Let's just make a few other changes. Let's crop that down there. Get rid of that like that. Let's grab a brush and set everything back to 0. We don't need that being on 1. And let's use the clarity. Put clarity to 100. I'm just going to grab my brush here, as you can see. Let me just see what have I got set. Brush size for me. There we go. Now, if you're wondering what I use, so I do get asked about that, I use a Wacom tablet. That's why you can see those things coming up on the screen. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just brushing clarity onto this tree trunk, and I'm gonna use these rocks here in the foreground to try and sharpen them up a little bit, because we lost that because we've got and clarity will sharpen things up or make things appear sharper than they are. So, all right. So we've done that. Let's have a look and see. I think this corner up here is still, on the top right hand corner, is still detracting. So I'm going to grab a graduated filter, drag it in from the corner, get rid of the clarity, don't need that, and we're going to just drop the exposure down in that corner a bit. See how that changes things? Now I'm working with the JPEG, as you can see it's just doing some weird stuff. That's okay. Let's just drop that down. So I'm going to drop it down one stop, like that. And then I'm going to grab a radial filter, and I'm going to do the same thing just up here. And these radial filters work really well for clouds. If you really want to, just fix highlights in your clouds and bring some of the detail back. So there we go. That's just like a half a exposure value. And then let's just duplicate that. And I'm going to put another one over here. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. So, once again, just some slight changes. Let's have a look. Before, after. Before and after. So you can see composition, a little bit of processing, and all of a sudden you end up with an image that, was pretty flat, didn't have a lot of character. And then you've got this one here that, whilst it's probably could still be better composition-wise, we can't move the image now, it's been taken, but certainly from a processing point of view, I'd be a lot happier with that. The other thing you could do, I reckon, is it could do with a bit of sharpening. I'll show you this little trick if you don't know how to do this inside of Photoshop. You've got this sharpening module. It's not Photoshop, Lightroom, right? When you come down to detail, instead of applying your sharpening to the whole image, because it's not going to work well, you use this masking, and if you hold down the Alt key and drag the masking across, you can just like the black is where it's not going to sharpen. So bring it across until things like the sky. So I'm not going to create noise in the sky. I'll go about there. And what that does now is I can move that, and it's going to just sharpen the edges of things because of the way that I've masked it. So you hold down the Alt key, and you'll see that it's going to really sharpen all the edges of things and the foreground, etc., and leave everything else as it was. So you're not going to get that noise. The other thing I would do with this image is, I probably would get rid of this stump over here. I would have made it more of a feature in my image. In fact, if you moved more to the left, you could have had a leading line going out to something with that. But once again, I don't know what was there. But I would be tempted to remove this because it's just distracting, like so. And it's not going so well. Let's move the feathering back just a bit. There we go. Same with this down here. Just little things like that. And I haven't done a great job of removing that, but well, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Lightroom's trying. I'm doing this really roughly, by the way, but you're getting the picture. So by removing that distraction, it just brings more of the focus to the stump. So there you go. That sort of gives you some ideas. Once again, here's the before, here's the after. Before, after. Hopefully you can see the difference. Let's do the before after that way, so you sort of get to see it. The differences, even the detail just in the trees makes a big difference. The white balance, just the details in the sky, because when you lose those details in the sky, it makes a huge difference. So there you go. Hopefully that was helpful, Ren. That was your image done. Cool bananas. Let's now jump into, just go back into this one here. Let's jump into John Grawl's image. Now this is John's image. Let me go back to the description so I know where it's from. This is from Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly, but that's okay. Chaco. Who knows if you know where that's from. But there, beautiful spot. My first thing here is I'm going to talk a bit about. You got to go, Brian. See you, buddy. I'm going to talk a bit about, once again, composition, because I think it's important to think about your composition. Now, definitely taken at a time of day where the light was nice. Looking at it, looks like it's a sunrise or sunset. Looks like it's a sunset. So it was taken at 10 p.m. And you can see the beautiful light hitting the side of this rock here. And for me, that's really a nice feature of this image. I would have said that for me, this would be better in landscape rather than portrait. So you've got to be real careful when you shoot in portrait. Portrait's one of those things that in landscape photography only works in certain instances. This one here, my eyes want to see what's off to the left. They just want to. And if you wanted to include this much depth to your image, then probably shoot a pano. Take an image to the left, take an image to the right, and join them together. Because I feel like we're missing something. That's the challenge with this. I feel like we're missing something. And I also feel, let me go to the develop, that we lose the focus of, for me, the part of this that is really cool, which is this sort of look up here. So let me sort of, I don't know what's going to work here. Let me have a look. Yeah, so I think, and this gives you an idea of how you can, you could compose differently and just get something with a little bit more impact. See, to me, that is has much more impact than what it had before. So I think, when you're composing your shots, you've really got to think about it and go, well, what's going to work really well? For me, I would much prefer a landscape rather than a portrait shot of this image. Now, if I go back to the portrait mode of this image, let me just undo my crop and recrop it. I would say that if I was going to do portrait, and I probably wouldn't. I'm struggling to make it work for me. But if I was going to do portrait, I would probably make it more of a skinnier portrait. But yeah, to me, it just doesn't work in portrait mode. So I think you've really got to think about how when you're out there shooting, if you're going to put your camera in portrait, have a very good reason for it, is what I would say. The other thing that could work quite well with this would be like a square, possibly. Let's have a look and see. Can I make a square work? No, my brain just wants to keep going back to landscape, which is, something like that. I mean, even if you can imagine that as a nice pano, I mean, it's a good big file, so it's allowing me to really, work with this image. What about a nice pano? The sky's not doing anything amazing, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. You can see I'm just making different changes here. Composition. Now, from a lighting point of view, great time of the day to shoot. From a technical point of view, let me just jump back into the technical details. ISO 200, 50mm, f13, all of that's perfect. Really well exposed image. White balance is good. You could maybe, white balance is perfect. I probably wouldn't change anything there. I could probably quickly apply something. One of my presets here, let me have a look. One I call gradient source. Let's put that on. Which one will work good? Yeah, you just got to work out what's going to work best. I would probably, I would definitely, let me have a look. Just do this. Let's do a gradient from the top. Drop the exposure down a tad from the top. Something like that. And same from the bottom. Let's do another one from the bottom. I think it needs a bit of darkening just to draw the eye in like that. I would then grab the brush, get some serious clarity onto this here and this here. The mountain, or whatever I suppose they're mountains, pinnacles. That's what I would do. That's the feature, and that's what I would do. So I picked this image because it was in portrait. I just want, I guess for me, be careful when you shoot portrait. Have a very good reason for doing it, because it can backfire on you unless you have a specific need. Maybe you're trying to take an image that's got to fit somewhere. Now the other thing I would do, this is something that is not easy to see until you zoom all the way in. There's actually a car here. Now you might want to keep that because it shows you the scale. But in this image here, in the bigger portrait mode, you would never see that. So I just get rid of things like that because it's not true to nature. Get rid of the car. Very simple to do these days with Lightroom. It looks like there's some wildlife just there. A bit hard to see, but Certainly is. Looks like some wildlife right there. And these are things you probably didn't even realise that wildlife was there. I don't know if you can see that, but there is something there. I don't know what it is. Sometimes it's good to put the zoom lens on your camera too and just have a look around because there's definitely some wildlife there. If I had the full image, I could go in and have a look and see what it is, but just there is something. So there you go. Well, that's sort of, that's what I would do to that image. So hopefully that you've found that helpful. Hopefully you found that helpful. That's what I would do. I wouldn't shoot that on portrait. I would have done it something like this. I think this has a lot more impact than the previous, and then you can just see with some slight editing, you can get some different things happening. All right, let's jump into the final one here. This final one here is Chris Lewis. He shot this on his iPhone, which is kind of cool. It's an iPhone 5, I think it was. So, the ISO and everything's going to be hard to understand. ISO 54.12 millimeters, f2.4 at 1/900th of a second. I love phone EXIF data. It's awesome. But I think this one's a good one because I wanted to talk about composition. There's something here that works really well, and that's this stream coming into the image. Works really well. from the right-hand corner. The photo itself, though, is a bit out of balance from light and dark. And this is a challenge always with, dynamic range. So, keep that in mind. I can quickly fix it, by the way, just by doing a few things. It's not going to be easy. But as you can see, before and after, just bring the detail back out. Now, with the phone, you're going to struggle a little bit because you don't have the same dynamic range. I think the exposure needs to be dropped a little bit. I think the white balance is out slightly. But for a phone, once again, you're just, you're trying different things, aren't you? But I think the stream itself is a nice, from a composition point of view. And the phone is a great way to practice composition, by the way. It's always with you. If you've got a bit of time on your hands and you're just waiting for something, or you're waiting somewhere, grab your phone out. Could be a park, could be a city, could be anywhere. It could be a lunch break. Go out with your phone and just try different composition. Get low, get high, move things around the frame, find a point of interest. I use an app on my phone. What is it? Let me get it. That allows you to have full manual control. I'll tell you what it is. I'm just bringing it up now. Is that it there? Camera Plus. That's all it's called, Camera Plus. But it gives you full manual control. I'll see if I can show you what that looks like. Not easy. But it gives you full manual control of your photo. Where is it? I'm trying to show you the app. So it's the one in the middle there. That's what the app looks like. It's called Camera Plus. And the good thing about it, when you go in here, is the camera, you can actually adjust things. So I don't know how you can see that, but you can adjust things like your exposure value. See that? So it actually allows you to adjust things that you can't adjust. So all the white balance manual settings. You can put an auto if you want, but I like to do things manually. So that's one of the apps that lets you do it. So if you're going to use your iPhone and you want to practice with changing settings, that's a great option as well. But yeah, so that's Chris's photo there. Not a lot of critiquing to be able to done on that from a technical aspect because it's with an iPhone. But as you can see, just quickly adjusting things in here by using Lightroom to, and that's the first thing I always do with any image, by the way. Let me just reset everything. And the basics. What I always do when I do things is I always come in first. I'm just putting everything back into the zeros that I want to put back to zero. There we go. Lightroom Mobile is great too, is it, Justin? Yeah, good to know. All right. So the first thing I always do is grab the highlights and swing them all the way to the left, -100, always. And then from there you can move it back up if you need to. I then grab the shadows and go all the way to the right. And what happens is you open up the dynamic range. Now, what you do is you lose all your contrast. So if you hold down the Shift key, double click on the word whites and double click on the words black, it actually adjusts your whites and blacks for you. Now, the other way you can do is you hold down your Alt key and you can see that starts clipping. So you want your whites to be just before the clipping starts. Now I'm going to go a little bit higher than what it wanted. And same with the blacks. Hold down the Alt key. And as you move, you'll see where your shadows lose their detail. So that's what the whites and the blacks do. So it's a great way just for you to quickly adjust an image. And then what I start to do is I look at the balance of the image and go, well, is there anything that's a bit out of whack? Like you can see that there is really bright. So, you just got to do something about it. So it could be a radial filter. You just whack a radial filter over it, see if you can reduce it. I think, unfortunately, the detail's lost in that part of the image, so I don't think I'm going to be able to, but we can try. Yeah, it's not working because the detail's lost. And this is what happens when you get highlights that are totally clipped out. You just can't do anything about them. And then things like, adding... Let's just add, where's my gradients? Let's add dark top and bottom. Probably too dark. Okay, just little things like that. Straight away, you'll see the difference between, and this is an iPhone image, so just be okay with making a few adjustments and be comfortable with that. That would be my advice. Now, if you want your images critiqued on the show, please send them in. The details are in the chat down below. ben@on3legs.com. Please leave your, send your images in. I'd love to help you out with critiquing your images. If you have any images you want critiqued, do that for me. 3 images. Try and make sure you include the EXIF information, a bit of detail about the shot, and that way I can make sure that I have the best possible information when it comes to critiquing the show, the shots on the show live for you. But yeah, that was some good there. Thank you very much to Ren, John, and Chris for sending those images in. I really appreciate it. It's a brave move. Once again, I always say this caveat is it doesn't matter what I think. If you like your shots, you like your shots. They're perfect. All I'm doing is giving you my own feedback as to what I would have changed or done in that instance. And so totally up to you what you do or don't do with those images. But that's just my advice. In the chat box right now, go for it. Share your social media. Let everybody know what your Instagram is, your Facebook, your 500 pics. Go like crazy. Share it in the chat box now so you can all start to hang out together. This is all about building a community for photographers, which leads me to back to the Patreon page. If you are a fan of the show and you want to support the show, you can do that by heading across to patreon.com/on3legs and become a VIP photographer. VIPs are hanging out over here in the VIP group, and we are sharing images. We're talking about gear, advice, lots of cool stuff going on, tips, resources, and of course you can chat directly with me and other VIPs in there. So a lot of fun in there. So go to patreon.com/on3legs. I'll put it in the chat box now. So you've got that link if you need it. And come and join us. We're hanging out in there. We're having a good old time. And right now, if you're not in there, you're missing out. No one likes missing out. So come and join us. It's a lot of fun. And you get access to that group no matter what level of Patreon you come in. So even at the $2 a month level, you're in there. And it's a fun old community we're building. So I'd love to see you in there. Once again, thanks for joining me for today's Pixel Chatter. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. And I'll jump in the chat box now. Let's have a chat. What's going on? Hey, Ren, great advice. You're welcome, buddy. You're welcome. Brian had to go. We know that. Chance gave it a thumbs up. Thanks, Chance. What else we got here? Anthony, looking forward to the next Pixel Chat. Me too, buddy. Me too. It's next week. Next Saturday, same time, same back channel. Thanks, Tommy. Here we go. Susan's just sharing her IG there. Feel free to do that. Susan is Life of Sparkle Photography. Go and check that out. Make sure you share all your social medias in here so you can all get hanging out together. Now's a good opportunity for you to share that, and so everyone can start following you on social media as well. Susan, enjoyed today. Thank you. Cool pics photography. Great show as usual. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it. It's not for everybody, the longer format show, but I know that a lot of you enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. It's great. Unlike my normal YouTube videos where I don't get to interact, this one I actually get to interact with everybody, so it makes it a little bit more fun. Hey, by the way, if you didn't see the other day we did the VIP Hangout, this is for the VIPs. I will do another VIP Hangout. Look out for the date. I'll stick it up in the VIP group, and we'll do another online Hangout using the new platform. I want to say thank you to Tommy, and I think it was, I'm going to get this wrong, Tommy and somebody else helped me out. I think it was Wendy or Julie, I think, came in and helped me out just to test the Zoom platform after the debacle I had trying to run the live VIP Hangout with YouTube Live. It was crazy. So thank you for that, guys. I really appreciate you helping me test that. But it worked fantastic. It worked really well. No latency. And it meant that you could go step by step as I was processing an image. So I will schedule another one, and that's where you can jump in and watch me process one of my images live as a VIP, and we can chat and just hang out a bit, which is pretty cool. All right, well that's it. Have a great weekend and get out there and take some photos. Cheerio.